Hello and welcome. I'm Vaishali Kohli and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Iran warns President Donald Trump that any U.S. attack will trigger strikes on Israel and American military bases in the region. The warning comes as Trump signals support for Iranian protesters and Israel remains on high alert. Meanwhile, Iranian authorities step up their crackdown on mass anti-government protests, with the Revolutionary Guards blaming terrorists for the unrest. Reports say more than 115 people are dead, hospitals are overwhelmed, and internet access has been cut for over 60 hours. In Minneapolis, tens of thousands turn out to protest and police arrest at least 29 people over the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good by an ICE agent. One officer is injured after being hit by ICE as demonstrators clash with police over U.S. immigration enforcement. A Ukrainian drone attack kills a woman and damages homes and buildings in Russia's southern city of Voronezh. Local officials say Kyiv says the strikes target Russian military sites in response to Moscow's continued attacks on Ukraine. The U.S. and partner forces carry out large-scale airstrikes on Islamic State targets in Syria after a deadly attack on American troops last month. The Pentagon says the operation aims to crush threats and protect U.S. and alleged forces in the region. Voters in Myanmar take part in the second phase of a military-run election that critics say is designed to formalize junta rule. The country remains gripped by civil war since the 2021 coup that detained Aung San Suu Kyi and ousted the elected government. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio speaks by phone with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, confirms a U.S. official. Reports say the talks focus on Gaza, Syria, and Iran's growing anti-government protests. In the entertainment world, the 83rd Golden Globe Awards begin tonight in Beverly Hills, with nominees including Timothée Chalamet, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Emma Stone. Comedian Nikki Glaser returns as host for a second year after making history with her solo debut in 2025. At least 192 people have been killed in 2 weeks of protests across Iran, according to the Norway-based rights group Iran Human Rights. This marks a sharp increase from an earlier reported death toll of 51, highlighting the escalating violence against demonstrators. The NGO warned that the actual number of casualties could be even higher, as a day-long internet blackout has made it difficult to verify reports from the ground. The protests, driven by economic strain and government policies, have continued across multiple cities, with security forces using force to try to suppress the movement. Authorities have so far not released an official death toll as human rights groups continue to document the violence and rising casualties. I have Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former Indian ambassador, joining me live from New Delhi, India. Ambassador Mukherjee, welcome. And I want to begin by asking you, how do you see the situation in Iran progressing?
Thank you very much, Vaishali, for inviting me to your program. The situation in Iran appears to be critical because never before, except when the Iranian Revolution happened and the Shah was forced to leave, never before has there been so much confusion and chaos and public protest for a continuous period of now 15 days. And the kind of bringing down of statues of people who are icons in the Iranian Revolution or who played a vital role in ensuring the security of Iran after the revolution shows that a large percentage, particularly of young people, are very tired of the inflation, of the lack of access to of, proper food items, and also the consequences of the sanctions and the water crisis, particularly in Tehran. I have Iranian friends telling me that there's a very severe water crisis, um, and the absence of an adequate response for so many months when from the Iranian government, when they could see public anger building up, they should have understood that a revolution can occur at any time in any country with total breakdown of law and order if the people don't have food in their stomach. I remember that in the UN, there used to be a famous saying that in a democracy, people should have the right to vote and the right to eat. The two rights go together. So you can't have people in such a miserable situation um, and taking it for so long. Secondly, if you remember earlier, there, there was a very harsh handling of women who did not want to wear the full hijab, or one woman actually died in prison. She was very badly treated just because she did not wear a full hijab when she was on social media. So these kind of things beyond a period of time don't work. Uh, Iranians are very intelligent people. Even at the height of the revolution, they never stopped the women from going to school and college or becoming doctors, etc., unlike in Talibanized Afghanistan. And I think that the regime will have to announce some serious reforms and try to calm things down ASAP. Um, Cutting off the internet, actually, as we saw in the Gen X uh, movement in Nepal for 2 days, cutting off internet actually tends to enrage young people because they are totally linked to the internet. It's a kind of form of life for them. So when you cut off the internet, you actually make a bad situation worse, and they can get access to news from other means. So cutting off the internet actually is just to prevent protesters from talking to each other, but they can talk to each other through other means. It's not a problem. I mean, after all, when I was born, there was no internet, but communications continued. You can't stop a revolution by cutting off the internet. So, and I very much apprehend that if there are strikes on Iran by the Americans, as seems likely, there is a lot of talk of movement on the Iran-Pak border of American military aircraft, etc. There are also warnings by Israel of imminent American strikes. If that happens, that has that may result in two things. It may result in the immediate collapse of the regime and Iran descending into civil war, which is not at all a good scenario to have because they also have nuclear weapons. The other is that it may help actually the regime to consolidate its remaining supporters and fight back because Iran, like many of us who have been colonized, has a very thin skin with regard to external invasion. So if if I were Donald Trump or if I were an advisor, if he would listen to me, my advice to him would be this is an internal matter of Iran. Let them sort it out themselves. If the people are angry, they will get rid of it. They didn't need any external help to get rid of the Shah. The efforts by the crown prince, who's lived for 50 years outside Iran, to now try and make a comeback is a horrible idea. What Iran needs is free and fair elections and their sovereign right to choose a government of their choice. The only golden lining I see in all this is that I'm told that the elected president is a so-called moderate, and he has been telling the security forces not to shoot, not to injure, etc., etc. That is sound advice. My question is, Are they listening to him at all? And if they are not listening to him, and if soldiers are being used for killing their own people, then it will definitely result in a total revolution, because normally soldiers actually refuse, because that's not their job. Their job is to save the country, not to shoot their own people. So at the end of the day, I would say, Vaishali, that this matter will play itself out either with the downfall of the regime, or not, in over the next 10 days. And let's not forget what Trump said when he first did the bombing of Iran. He said, I know where the Iranian leadership was. I know the bunker where they were hiding. If we had wanted, we could have finished them off. We did not finish them off, which means that even without a strike, they can send a drone and kill off the top Iranian leadership, since they seem to have complete and total intelligence about where the leaders are, where they are hiding, where is the bunker, etc. It's just up to the Americans to decide what to do. Are they going to make a drone strike and take out the leadership, or are they going to bomb Iran? And I hope they understand that Iran is a large country. If it descends into civil war, it will have catastrophic consequences for the entire region. It will also impact India, because we're not that far from Iran, and we have a shared history, culture, and civilization. It will definitely impact the security of Pakistan. It will impact the security of all its neighboring countries. So I hope Mr. Trump, whenever he decides what to do, have one of his advisors showing
Ambassador
him.
Mukherjee, I'll just have to interrupt you. I have to take the next story. I'll come back to you. Now, Israel's foreign minister, Gideon Saar, has called on the European Union to officially designate Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, as a terrorist organization. Saar made the appeal during talks with visiting German Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt, emphasizing the need for urgent action in light of the IRGC's suspected use of violence against protesters in Iran. He highlighted that Germany has historically supported this position and said that the current unrest in Iran makes the issue even more pressing. Saar stressed that the European Union should act collectively to formally label the IRGC a terrorist entity. The IRGC has faced widespread international criticism for its crackdown on demonstrations, human rights abuses, and support for proxy groups in the region. I have Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former Indian ambassador, joining me live from New Delhi in India. Ambassador Mukherjee, how do you feel about this?
Well, actually,
yes.
after what,
Okay.
there's some noise in the background.
For you and me, it is today, but for Guru, it is Monday. Okay.
I'm sorry, Vaishali, there's some noise of someone talking. Thank you. So, what I'm saying is that Iran, after what it has done in the Gaza Strip and killed so many Palestinians, I don't think that the UN or the EU will take their advice as far as the IRGC is concerned. But if the IRGC is responsible for killing innocent Iranian civilians, men, women, and children, there will be a massive backlash inside Iran. And since they are an elite force, heavily armed, of course, but they're not so many in numbers, they face the risk of the tide turning against them, in which case they will be shot and lynched by Iranians. You don't need external intervention for that. And if there is a new government which will be formed, they will themselves decide what to do with the IRGC. Should they be outlawed, etc., etc. In which case, the new Iranian government themselves may go to the UN Security Council and say that the IRGC should be labeled as a terrorist organization. So I think we should watch and wait for the next few days exactly to see how events are happening. But from my information from many Iranian friends that I have made over the years in the UN system, etc., they tell me they're all in. Most of them are in Geneva or Paris. they tell me that the situation is very, very bad. And I don't know if the airport is open and flights are coming in or not. But I would take this opportunity to tell Indian nationals in Iran to be very careful, to stay in touch with the Indian embassy, to stay within their houses. And I would tell Indians not to travel to Iran at the moment because the situation is fraught with danger, and there is always a possibility of accidental killing, given that many Indians, and that includes me, we could be mistaken for Iranians or Egyptians. When I was posted in Egypt, most Egyptians thought I was an Arab. So there is, because of the close civilizational DNA link, etc. So I think it's very, very important for the Indian community to stay indoors, to be very careful, to be in touch with the embassy, and not to travel to Iran right now in case the airport is open. I haven't checked on that. You would know better, Vaishali.
All right, Ambassador Mukherjee, thank you for joining me on the broadcast. Now, Hamas has announced that it will dissolve its governing bodies in Gaza and will transfer power to an quote-unquote independent technocratic committee. This marks a significant shift after nearly 2 decades of Hamas's rule. The group has promised to facilitate the committee's success as it takes over administrative duties. At the same time, senior Hamas officials are raising concerns about the stalled Trump peace plan. They blame Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for undermining the terms, which they claim is leading to a breakdown in the plan's implementation. Hamas officials also argue that continued military escalation and the worsening humanitarian crisis could escalate tensions further, risking a broader regional conflict. I have Major General Sudhakarji, Senior Strategic and International Affairs Expert, joining me from New Delhi. Major General Sudhakarji, welcome. And what would you like to say on this issue?
Well, good evening, Vaishali. Thank you for inviting me for your show. All I would say is this indication or declaration by the Hamas is a welcome development, and this is going to augur well towards realization of the peace proposal mooted by Donald Trump and his team at an early date. But one would do well to be very cautious in this move, because ultimately what is going to happen is that the very proposal of peace is fraught with many stakeholders, multiple stakeholders who are not amenable to the same, and particularly Netanyahu. Netanyahu has to be understood in the real perspective that his tenure is coming to an end, elections are around the corner, there are large number of criminal cases against him in the court. This is one. And second, we all are aware of what is happening in Iran, and let's not forget about the octopus doctrine. The head of octopus being Iran, and the tentacles being Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah and Hezbollah Saif. So although they may have been weakened, but it is going to be a very far-fetched kind of an assumption to say that they will not revive or they will not bounce back if there is any trust deficit or breach of trust by any of the stakeholders in between. Hamas may have been downsized from 38,000 to say 14 to 18,000 now, but there are a lot of supporters. There are supply chain is well established with regard to the fund laundering, or the money transactions are done through very clandestine means. So all these aspects have to be kept in view. However, given the latest turn of events and the development, I would say it's a welcome development. Back to Vaishali.
Thank you, Major General Sudhakarji. Now, please stay on with me. I'll come back to you. Now, Elon Musk has accused the UK government of being fascist and suppressing free speech, escalating a global dispute over his Grok AI chatbot. The controversy follows reports that users of Grok, a tool on Musk's platform X, generated sexualized images of women and children, including girls aged 11 to 13, some of which appeared which appeared on the dark web. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer condemned the practice as disgraceful and disgusting and warned that Ofcom, the country's media regulator, has full authority to act against the platform. Technology Secretary Liz Kendall added that X could be blocked in the UK if it fails to comply with local laws. The European Union has launched its own investigation into X over offensive material generated by the AI. In response, Musk made Grok's image editing feature a paid service while insisting the platform removes child sexual abuse material and suspends violators. I have Major General Sudhakarji, Senior Strategic and International Affairs Expert, joining me live from New Delhi. Major General Sudhakarji, what would you like to say on this issue?
I personally feel that Elon Musk must look into the issue in a much more objective manner, which I am told that he's already on the job. The algorithms of the Grok AI tool must be gone into in detail so that this dehumanizing or presenting young girls in an undesirable manner with the help of AI tool should not be encouraged. It should be brought to an end, and the angst which is rising by the day in European countries, it was preceded by a very firm and very straightforward objection by the government of India, and it had served a notice to Elon Musk to carry out the change. Otherwise, same would be banned as far as the Grok AI tool is concerned, because it was objected to by many senior officials as also leadership in the country, that it is being used even in the Indian subcontinent in a similar manner. Likewise, it would do well to X or the Elon Musk platform if this aspect is comprehensively addressed to correct the anomaly so that it doesn't repeat itself. It's a question of his own credibility and the fundamental rights of the women and the girls not to be presented as sexual objects with the help of the AI tool. I personally feel that it's a very dehumanizing kind of activity. No technology should be empowered to cross a particular red line. This particular tool has crossed the red lines which are acceptable to the mankind for a civilized world order. It should at no stage be allowed in any country to be exercised just for the making profit, and he may call it as fascist or whatever. Earlier, I had given my comments contrary to it because the input was very selectively shared, and therefore my comments were in favor of Elon Musk. Now it is taken a new dimension. I strongly object to this particular phenomena. It should be brought to an end. Back to you, Vishali.
All right, Major General Sudhakarji, thank you so much for joining me. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump asserted that Cuba's long-standing support for Venezuela through oil and financial aid has come to an end. According to Trump, Cuba provided security services to Venezuela's last two dictators in exchange for these resources. Trump has further claimed that most of the Cubans involved were killed in a recent U.S. attack and that Venezuela no longer requires protection from what he described as thugs and extortionists who held the country hostage for years. He emphasized that Venezuela now has the backing of the U.S., which he called the most powerful military in the world, pledging that U.S. protection moving forward. Trump also warned that there will be no more oil or money flowing to Cuba from Venezuela, urging the countries to reach a deal before it's too late. Trump has signed off the message as President DJT, underscoring his continued influence in political discourse. Now, China can close its technological gap with the U.S. fueled by increasing risk-taking and innovation, although the shortage of advanced chip-making equipment is hindering the industry. China's so-called AI tiger startups Minimax and Zipu AI are making impressive debuts on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, signaling rising confidence in the sector. as Beijing fast-tracks AI and chip listings to strengthen domestic alternatives to advanced U.S. technology. Meanwhile, China has completed a working prototype of an extreme ultraviolet lithography machine potentially capable of producing cutting-edge semiconductor chips that can compete with those of the West. However, the machine has not yet produced working chips and may not do so until 2030, according to people familiar with the matter. And that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news and updates from around the world.